Hi, I'm Silkie Carlo, the director of Big Brother Watch, and I'll be responding today to your comments about our facial recognition video.
At the moment, this is how it works. They bring out a van. There are cameras on top of the van that scan everyone's faces as they walk past.
I came to London Bridge and I was pulled up at London Bridge in regards to this facial recognition. They were trying to threaten me with regards to an arrest.
He says to me, "You're banned." I did cry the entire way home. I felt so helpless. I just really wanted to find any way to prove that I wasn't a thief.
In August, we released a documentary about the stories of Sean and Sarah, who were both misidentified by facial recognition technology. And the video was also about our subsequent legal action. Lots of you had questions about how this technology works, the legal implications, and you also raised important points about facial recognition. So I'll get right into answering them. A Tomo918 says, imagine the nightmare scenario where you're locked up because a computer said you're guilty, even though you're innocent. I feel like I'm getting deja vu. Yes, this happened before with the post office. They never learn. Well, that is exactly what we thought, and that there are the hallmarks of Horizon-style scandals over lots of uses of automation in government and the police at the moment. And what is so worrying about live facial recognition is that it does turn the presumption of innocence completely on its head. And that is a real step change for the whole country. And that's what we're trying to wake people up to, is that the relationship between us and the police is changing such that you have to prove your innocence in many of these scenarios. So in Sean's case, he had to prove that he wasn't somebody that the police thought he was, and they wouldn't even tell him who that person was. They didn't know who he was. He didn't know who they were looking for. And he was in this very odd situation where he then had to prove that he wasn't somebody they thought he might be.
My friend. It's not about making sure nothing. I know I ain't done nothing wrong. This is simple. And I've showed you myself. The guy's face, you showed him there. I'm saying that face.
Which is really difficult to do. And as I witnessed, and as you've seen in the video, even him showing his passport, his bank cards, all the kinds of, and his passport was just a photo on his phone. Obviously, we don't carry it around. But the kind of ID that you carry around with you is something you might find that you suddenly have to show to somebody in a position of authority because a facial recognition camera has flagged you as somebody of interest. It is a very, very dangerous situation, and it does kind of engender an ID culture as well. If he hadn't shown his ID, I think he probably would have been arrested, and they were threatening him with arrest anyway. And then you've got cases like Sarah's and other people that have been stopped and accused of being shoplifters in shops, who, again, are having to prove their innocence. And actually, there's no way, especially in a privatised system, there is no way that you can do that. So if you walk into your local shop that you normally go to, supermarket, and they stop you and they say, a security guard said a few weeks ago that you hadn't paid for something, so therefore you're banned. You don't get a trial. You don't get the opportunity to put your case forward or show evidence. And as we found in many of these cases, they don't have any evidence on the people that they're accusing. So there is no trial process. There is no opportunity to prove your innocence. Once the computer says no, that's it.
Computer says no.
Sally Ann Osmer says, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I had no idea it was this bad. It's essential that we stop this government from taking away our freedom and privacy before it's too late. Sally is following the right group and speaking to the right people. That is exactly what we're trying to do. And she's right that there is a point, I think, at which it's too late. Once the horse has bolted, it's really hard to roll this kind of surveillance back. We've already seen what's happened in this country with CCTV. We now have the same number of CCTV cameras to proportion of the population as they have in China. We're one of the most surveilled nations in the world. And the Metropolitan Police have recently started talking about putting live facial recognition software on CCTV networks. So make no mistake, this could change everything. And we have to take action before it's too late. If this software works its way out into CCTV networks because we've been complacent, because we didn't fight hard enough, then we will be living in a very different country, kind of like an open prison, which is what we want to avoid. So we've got to win this one. Tougher Coot 0518 says, just donated. This is really important and I'm glad you're doing something about it. Well, thank you so much. It's not just us doing something about it, really it's you, because we wouldn't be able to do this if it weren't people like you donating. Whether it's £2, £20, £200, it's all making a real difference, and that's what's enabling us to fight facial recognition. If you haven't donated yet, but you want to support our legal action, please look at the crowdfunder below. In Sean's case, we are trying to bring a full judicial review of the Metropolitan Police's use of live facial recognition technology. We're arguing that it's a breach of our right to privacy and our right to freedom of expression and free speech, because if you're watched all the time and there are cameras everywhere using biometric surveillance, then you won't behave freely and you won't express yourself freely. You will think twice about going to a demonstration. You will think twice about living your life freely. And that's the case that Sean and I are making. And we think that by doing that, we can stop facial recognition. It's not just about London, even though this is a case against the Metropolitan Police. If we win, which I think we can, then it would stop facial recognition across the whole country. It's a big one, so please support it if you can. In Sarah's case, we've sent legal letters to the retailers and to FaceWatch, the facial recognition company, on her behalf, explaining why and how they've breached the law in using live facial recognition. It's really, really hard in these private cases with massive high street chains to bring legal action because they have millions of pounds behind them and we don't. And it makes it really, really risky and really, really costly. So with any donations and support that we have, we will keep pushing on the legal action to the extent that we can. And again, your support is not only about the legal action, it's also about this wider campaign that we're fighting. It's really now or never with facial recognition. If we don't stop it now, it's going to spread like wildfire. John Moss 7227 says, if you do nothing wrong, what do you have to fear? Well, I hope we get a few replies to John Moss, because I know that a lot of you will appreciate how wrong that comment is. And it's one that we get all the time. It's the most frequent comment that we get. And you'd be surprised, we sometimes even get it from politicians. Despite the fact I've also spoken to people in the security services who say it's one of the most depressing things that even they hear. Even they think that this is a ridiculous and sad and anti-democratic point of view for people to have. We all have something to fear from a democratic country adopting the technology of a totalitarian surveillance state. We all have something to worry when that starts to happen. Because it changes the nature of the country that we live in and the freedoms that we enjoy.
But know this, you have nothing to fear if you have nothing to hide.
The other thing, just to say practically about this, if you've done nothing wrong, nothing to hide, nothing to fear point of view, is the two cases that we showed in the video are both of people who had done absolutely nothing wrong and therefore should have had nothing to worry about. Yet they were publicly humiliated. Sean easily could have been arrested. His personal details were taken by the police. Sarah was accused in public of being a shoplifter. We've also had people get in touch where that's happened in front of colleagues, in front of family. There are serious ramifications of this and of when this technology goes wrong and indeed when it works, because these are the kinds of consequences that you see. John Moss 7227, you're wrong. I'm afraid you do have a lot to fear, and you should watch more of our videos. to get the message. YYYMS3WE says facial recognition is used in China and Russia. It's illegal in Europe. Labour now uses facial recognition. Welcome to 1984 in full throttle. This is true, that very, very few countries elsewhere around the world are using facial recognition, and we are in the ranks with China and Russia. This is not a good look. And it's also true that live facial recognition is broadly prohibited in Europe. The EU introduced the AI Act this year, which bans law enforcement from using live facial recognition in all but very, very few circumstances, like a serious counter-terror operation, for example. And they have to have judicial authorization, and there are lots of safeguards. It's broadly a sensible and much, much better approach than what we have here. They also have the GDPR, data protection legislation, that we have the same copy of, which stops companies using live facial recognition on high streets, in shops, workplaces, etc. The commenter makes the point that Labour now uses facial recognition. That's true, but it's been inherited from the last government, from the Conservative government. And the Conservative government put a lot of pressure on the data protection watchdog to stop enforcement against companies that were using live facial recognition. If you look in Europe, you've had supermarkets that were fined millions of euros for using live facial recognition to spy on shoppers. And yet here you could go in a half an hour radius of your local city and you'd probably find that you were being scanned and watched with facial recognition cameras. And the data watchdog isn't doing anything about it. Part of the reason for that is that Chris Philp, who is now Shadow Home Secretary, put a lot of pressure on the data watchdog to not take any action. Strong & Co says, Big Brother Watch appears to be doing as much as they can with regards to the police, but can we do our bit with regards to Face Watch by boycotting Home Bargains, Co-op, Sports Direct and Flannels? These are all shops that use live facial recognition. And anywhere else that displays the Face Watch logo. I can't believe that promotional video where that Face Watch representative actually sounds proud of what he's doing. I know. They're really proud of what they're doing, and they're hoping that their business kicks off big time and that they make millions of pounds from doing this and that it's used everywhere.
There's nearly 6 million cameras in the UK and about 500,000 in London alone. It's a technology that eventually becomes part of society and people sort of, well, they might not embrace it, they just accept it's there.
Showing that customers don't like it and that it's putting people off and that they're commenting on social media and atting these big stores and giving their press offices a hard time by saying, we want you to take away this live facial recognition. It is really, really an effective thing. And we're asking you all to do that. We'll show a list from our website, which is all the shops who are currently using live facial recognition. Unfortunately, it's a long list, but have a read and you can avoid these ones as much as you can. And at them from your social media profiles, get in touch with them, tell them that you want them to stop using live facial recognition. Or if you go into the stores, tell the staff politely that you don't like it and that you feel sorry for them, that they're having to act like private police officers and biometrically scan people when they go into their shops. We've had success before with this kind of corporate campaigning. We got Chinese surveillance cameras made by the company Hikvision stripped out of major stores, and lots of commitments from all the major supermarkets to take them away because of the press that we did, and importantly, because of you putting the pressure on those shops when we asked you to. They did listen. They realised that it was really controversial. We have to do the same with live facial recognition. Simon Broddle 754 says, are shops required to let potential customers know they're using facial recognition? If so, I'll certainly boycott any of these premises. Great video, thank you for your work. Thank you, Simon. And yes, they do have to let you know that they're using facial recognition. So when you go into a shop, there should be a sticker on the window typically they use a company called FaceWatch. So normally it would say FaceWatch is in operation, but you can't really count on seeing it because there often are really small stickers like this on a front door with lots of other signs going on. You could really easily miss it. But if you do see it, please send us an email and let us know so we can add them to the list. Voodoo Dolly 77 says, is it true that black and brown faces don't always work with facial recognition? There are lots of studies that look at the efficacy of facial recognition across different ethnicities, and consistently research has found that facial recognition algorithms are worse with darker skin tones and also with women. And there are lots of reasons for this, but it is the state of play. It's also the case that the technology is getting much better. So it is becoming more accurate across more demographic groups, gender, ethnicity, age, even with masks. It's a complex picture, but the point is it certainly doesn't always work. And we also should understand what work means with facial recognition. This is not like a DNA test where the accuracy will be, there's like a 1 in a however many hundreds of million chance that your DNA profile could look similar to somebody else's. Facial recognition is just a probability score, and it says how likely you are to look like another individual. The other thing I think to say about facial recognition and race is that we're also dealing often with people's stereotypes and who they choose to put on watch lists. The Metropolitan Police have independently been reviewed and found to be institutionally racist. Who do they decide to load onto their facial recognition watch lists? Likewise, when a security guard gets a hunch about an individual that they decide to put onto a watch list without due process, is it the middle-class white woman going in well-dressed to a supermarket after work in a suit, or is it actually an ordinary person? Is it somebody that is more likely to fit a profile that they have a stereotype about? So there is a way that facial recognition is really regressive and can be used in a very discriminatory way, playing on people's stereotypes. And that's something that we should all be cautious about as well. TX3851 says, I don't live in London, but I'm a father to a young man and 2 young women and wasn't aware of street fathers. What an amazing group of men trying to keep young men safe, not just for now, but positively influencing their futures, also supporting single mothers. They are amazing. I couldn't agree with you more. One of the really nice things that came out of me witnessing this horrible facial recognition incident with Sean is that I got to know Sean and I've got to know the Street Fathers, and they are incredible. They do really good work. And they're doing the sort of work that if you have an old-fashioned point of view, might hope that the police were doing, that they were getting knives off the streets. What was so jarring about the police stopping Sean was they stopped him when he was finishing a patrol, which is where he goes out on the streets of London in a stab-proof vest and stops young boys from hurting each other and encourages knife amnesties. That is really important, meaningful work that everyone, not just for us living in London, but everyone in the country wants people and people in the community to be doing, and frankly, people in the police to be doing. And instead, what we saw was lots of people being paid lots of money with taxpayers' money, standing around cameras, stopping innocent members of the public, like Sean, from doing things that they've failed to do. Thank you to everyone who has donated to our crowdfunder so far. Your support has truly energised and inspired us. Each contribution brings us closer to our goal of stopping live facial recognition. If you haven't had a chance to contribute yet and you'd like to, then please have a look at our crowdfunder. The link is below. You can donate quickly and easily there, and your support really makes a difference. If you can't donate or you already have, but you still want to support, please share the crowdfunder far and wide with your friends and family, and share our videos, because spreading the word is part of the mission and it really helps. Thank you once again for standing with us on this journey. We really couldn't do it without you. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a like and subscribe to our channel.